Anyway, so with the release of Transformers Rise of the Beast, we now have 7 live-action Transformers films. And as someone that is a lifelong fan of the Transformers franchise, I always get some enjoyment out of these big theatrical releases because it's always going to be exciting to see these Transformers on the big screen, even though as the Michael Bay sequels went on, it became more and more of a chore to sit through many of them, but we're kind of on the right track here, I feel like, especially with Bumblebee, and we're going to talk about Rise of the Beast, actually. But, of course, you're all going to have different opinions about the franchise, so I'm very excited to hear what you guys think about the franchise down below and how you'd rank all the different films. So make sure you share your rankings down below, but let's get on to my last place pick. In last place, I have Transformers The Last Knight, the final Michael Bay Transformers film, and it really went out on kind of a whimper. At this point in time, these Transformers films kind of just became rough to sit through due to all the cringe-inducing humor, dull characters, and this one even more nauseating to sit through. You just have a constantly changing aspect ratio pretty much in almost every single scene throughout the entire film. It is very distracting. Over time, as Michael Bay directed these Transformers films, they just became more and more bloated and just filled with so many unnecessary plot lines. It would take a lot of time to go through all of the plot lines in Transformers The Last Knight, but the big ones here, you have Optimus leaving Earth to meet Quintessa, he very briefly turns evil, and then all the human story threads, you throw in this random King Arthur lore into the mix for some reason. I mean, sure, the Transformers action still is top-notch, but by this time, as the stories unfolded, I was just ready for this franchise to end, at least with Michael Bay at the helm. In 6th place, I have Transformers Age of Extinction. This entry definitely does have some interesting concepts to the plot it was trying to tell along with this new main cast, but the execution of all those ideas in this, I think, was pretty bad. Mark Wahlberg is fine as the new protagonist for the Transformers films, but it's just the rest of this cast in the Age of Extinction is so awful. The biggest red flag being the boyfriend character and the weird loopholes around dating Mark Wahlberg's teenage daughter, which I don't know why you would inject that into a Transformers film to begin with, but that was a horrible idea. I was pretty hyped though about Age of Extinction in terms of all the Transformers action in this, especially due to the additions of the Dinobots. How could I not be amazed by Optimus Prime riding on Grimlock in the final battle? But as an overall movie experience, however, this film is just way too damn long. It is excessive, 2 hours and 45 minutes. I'm not even completely against the film having a longer runtime as long as it's justified. Age of Extinction does not justify it. There's basically almost no plot the entire film. It's just these characters going from place to place and things just happen to them. It is a very weirdly structured movie in that regard, and unfortunately, most of this journey in that 2 hour and 45 minute runtime, it's pretty dull. In 5th place, I have Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. While I quite like the original Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen was kind of that film where you kind of started to see the cracks start to form for the usual things that we would see pop up in the Michael Bay Transformers films. For every awesome sequence in Revenge of the Fallen, like the amazing battle in the forest or the final fight against the Fallen, there'd be as many weird things that they would throw into this film for no reason, like humping Transformers, Devastator has testicles now for some reason, and then you also have the 2 racist Transformers and a Decepticon that can change into an actual woman and make out with Shia LaBeouf in his dorm room, and that is never explained, and we never see anybody ever do that ability ever once again in the rest of the franchise. All of those things, along with just a very scatterbrained plot with a lot of jumbled narratives, bogs down so much of the film. I do think Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox do improve overall as characters in Revenge of the Fallen. It's just the movie around them is pretty rough. In 4th place, I have Transformers Dark of the Moon. Out of all the Michael Bay Transformers sequels, this is the entry that I have the most fun with. It introduces some fun concepts into the backstory of the Transformers, has an awesome final battle in Chicago. It's one of my favorite Transformers final battles, and just the overall brilliance of the antagonist Sentinel Prime, voiced by Leonard Nimoy. It was exciting even back then that Leonard Nimoy, after he voiced Galvatron, as we all know in the original Transformers movie, he is now back to voice another character, and I think he did a great job. What holds back Dark of the Moon from being a bit higher on my list, though, is the first half of this film is very dull. It is already long enough as it is, but when you spend so much time in the first half centered around Sam trying to find a job and this love triangle angle between him, Kylie, and Patrick Dempsey's character, it's just stuff I really just don't care about. The second half of the movie, though, extremely strong. I have a blast with it every time I rewatch it, but that first half really holds back the film in general. In 3rd place, I have Transformers Rise of the Beast, the most recent entry in the franchise. I am a little bit biased because I did grow up watching Beast Wars. I've always loved the Maximals because of that show. It's how I got into Transformers in the first place. But still, overall, it's such a fun fun film for Transformers fans and also Beast Wars fans. It's filled with so much heart, charm, and surprisingly likable human characters, which is a rare feat for this franchise. But you can't help but not be hyped when you do get these amazing Transformers maximal action set pieces. The third act of this film alone is on par with one of the coolest moments of the entire franchise, up there with that opening in Bumblebee. Between Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, it is a great time to be a Transformers fan once again when it comes to these live action films. After so many years, it was just so rough being a Transformers fan with those Michael Bay films coming out. Now, it actually is exciting. You can get excited for these films now. In second place, I have Transformers, the very first Transformers from Michael Bay, and easily by far the best of all of his films. Sure, there are still the tropes that you've come to know and love and sometimes hate from a Michael Bay directed film, but the Michael Bay isms in the first Transformers, I think for the most part, are pretty fun, particularly in the action category when we do see these Transformers battle over the course of the film. Still, after all these years, it looks phenomenal. Also, there's just a ton of charm in this first film. I love the dynamic between Sam and Bumblebee in this. It still is great to this day. Even though Shia LaBeouf has kind of had a really weird career since the Transformers films, I think he is fantastic in this role. Given the fact this film is 16 years old, it came out back in 2007, a lot of the VFX in this still hold up so well compared to a lot of modern CGI. Seeing these Transformers in live action still looks amazing. I mean, it's always going to be exciting seeing them nowadays, but what they were able to pull off in 2007 and have them look this good, it still feels pretty surreal. And while it isn't a perfect Transformers film by any means, or an adaptation of the animated series, I do think this is a pretty good film all around. It makes me happy as a Transformers fan. But at number one, I have Bumblebee. After so many rough Michael Bay films for this Transformers franchise, Bumblebee really gave me hope for the future of these live action films and really kind of restored my faith in them being pretty good once again. It is much smaller in scale in comparison to the Michael Bay Transformers films, but after how bloated a lot of those films became, it made me appreciate this back to basics dynamic centered around Hailee Steinfeld's character so much more. I always love these kind of simple stories and the way that she befriends Bumblebee and has this fun journey. It's just an overall blast whenever I rewatch this film. Everything in this is enhanced by the fact that I do love the dynamic between Hailee Steinfeld and Bumblebee in this. It just makes for an exciting viewing experience that pays off well for the arcs we go on with these characters on this adventure. And as I said previously, it gave me hope for the future of the Transformers franchise. With where we leave off in this, I was actually excited to see what came next, what they could do after Bumblebee to enhance the franchise at large, whether it be go in a new direction with these and kind of ignore the Michael Bay films or build on that. Thankfully, they chose to just basically reboot after this, so I am excited, especially because now we have Rise of the Beast to talk about for the rest of the Transformers franchise, where we go after Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. But there you have it. That is my ranking of all the live-action Transformers films. It is a lot of fun talking about the entire Transformers franchise with you guys. And like I said previously, make sure you share your rankings down below in the comment section. How would you rank all the films from worst to best, whether you have seen Rise of the Beast or not? I would love to know all of your rankings, because I'm sure there's going to be a bit of different rankings, and that's what makes these rankings so much fun. As always, thank you guys so much for checking out the rankings. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, to update reviews, reactions, rankings, unboxings, and more. Next time, I'll see you guys later.